In a landmark civil fraud trial unfolding in New York, former President Donald Trump engages in an unprecedented and contentious courtroom confrontation with Judge Arthur Engoron. The trial, centered on a staggering $250 million fraud allegation, has rapidly become one of the most scrutinized legal battles in modern American history, a reflection of rising political tensions. Spanning from October 2023 through January 2024, the proceedings have been characterized by dramatic testimony, intense cross-examinations, and direct verbal exchanges between Trump and Judge Engoron that have captivated national audiences and polarized public opinion. From the opening day on October 10, 2023, when the first statement of the case was read aloud in a crowded Manhattan courtroom, palpable tension filled the air. Court transcripts recorded charge language exchanged, underscoring the severity of the allegations while simultaneously highlighting fundamental disagreements regarding the interpretation of evidence in legal procedures. Amid intense media scrutiny and a backdrop of political polarization, every statement made by either side was meticulously dissected for meaning and implication, revealing deeper societal rifts. The ensuing months witnessed a series of escalating confrontations, culminating in dramatic exchanges that, across nearly 60% of the total trial coverage, depicted the courtroom as a high-stakes battlefield of words and legal posturing. This article offers a comprehensive and meticulously detailed account of the period from October 2023 to January 2024, during which the trial presented not only procedural complexities, but also a series of head-on conflicts between a former president defending his reputation and a judge determined to maintain judicial integrity. By drawing directly from court transcripts and verified official statements, we aim to provide an accurate, factual account of this seminal legal proceeding, emphasizing the intense exchanges between President Trump and Judge Engoron, whose confrontations are marked by an intensity rarely seen in civil litigation. In what follows, we structure our report into several clearly defined sections. After the introductory overview, a background section will provide two detailed paragraphs outlining the $250 million fraud allegations, setting the stage for the subsequent months of contention. The main body of this narrative chronicles the numerous direct confrontations between Trump and Judge Engoron, emphasizing documented transcripts, precise dates, and a clear timeline of events. Finally, the conclusion summarizes the trial's developments, the impact of these confrontations on the legal process, and the broader implications for American jurisprudence and political accountability. The case captivating the nation centers on serious allegations that a series of fraudulent business transactions and deceptive financial practices resulted in a cumulative loss of approximately $250 million to investors and financial institutions. According to the official indictment, evidence detailed a pattern of misrepresentation, including forged financial statements, manipulated valuations, and undisclosed conflicts of interest, implicating not only poorly executed business decisions, but also deliberate attempts to mislead regulatory bodies and shareholders. Such actions form the foundation of the civil fraud charges brought before the New York State courts. Officials from the Office of Financial Enforcement assert that these charges stem from a comprehensive investigation spanning several years, and that mounting evidence is sufficient to establish a prima facie case of fraud. These claims highlight the critical need for accountability in corporate dealings, as they reflect systemic issues that can undermine trust in the financial system. To support the $250 million fraud allegation, prosecutors relied on financial records, internal communications, and expert testimony, demonstrating that the fraud was not an isolated incident, but part of a concerted and sustained effort to defraud investors. The legal documents detail how critical financial instruments were misvalued and how several high-level executives, including Donald Trump in his role as a significant stakeholder, allegedly turned a blind eye to these discrepancies for personal and political gain. The case background emphasizes that the allegations are rooted in complex financial transactions and that the trial signifies a pivotal moment in the nation's ongoing struggle for corporate accountability and transparent governance. The confrontation between President Trump and Judge Engoron has been meticulously scheduled and documented over the span of 4 tumultuous months, an extended period marked not only by intense legal drama, but also by profound societal implications. This trial has significant legal ramifications, serving as a focal point for broader discussions about the intersection of law, politics, and accountability in contemporary society. Over 60% of the trial hearings have been dominated by direct and, at times, heated exchanges between the two figures, each representing divergent worldviews and the stakes involved in the case. The animosity and tension have captivated not only the courtroom audience, but have also reverberated through the wider political landscape, illuminating the divisive nature of this historic trial. The following account provides a detailed timeline and narrative of these head-to-head moments, illustrating both the escalating drama and the implications that these confrontations hold for both the individuals involved and the fabric of American democracy. On October 10, 2023, as the trial commenced in New York's Manhattan courtroom, palpable anticipation hung in the air, an atmosphere that enveloped every corner of the historic room. The space buzzed with whispers from spectators, journalists, and legal experts alike, all grappling with the weight of what was about to unfold. In his opening remarks, Judge Engoron established an uncompromising tone, stating, "In this court, evidence is sovereign. Let no political affiliation cloud the truth before us." His declaration set a resolute framework for the proceedings, emphasizing the judiciary's impartiality and the critical importance of factual integrity in a case emblematic of broader societal divisions. These words, laden with significance, met immediate resistance from Trump, whose legal counsel quickly interjected, arguing that the judge's remarks were provocatively framed, casting the courtroom as a battleground for ideological clashes. The defense's reaction highlighted an undercurrent of tension that had long surrounded the trial, one where personal vendettas and legal accountability increasingly blurred lines. On October 10, 2023, as the trial commenced in New York's Manhattan courtroom, palpable anticipation hung in the air, an atmosphere enveloping every corner of the historic room. The space buzzed with whispers from spectators, journalists, and legal experts alike, all grappling with the weight of the unfolding complexities. In his opening remarks, Judge Engoron established an uncompromising tone, stating, "In this court, evidence is sovereign. Let no political affiliation cloud the truth before us." His declaration set a resolute framework for the proceedings, emphasizing the judiciary's impartiality and the critical importance of factual integrity in a case emblematic of broader societal divisions. These words, laden with significance, met immediate resistance from Trump, whose legal counsel quickly interjected, arguing that the judge's remarks were provocatively framed, casting the courtroom as a battleground for ideological clashes and deeper conflicts. The defense's reaction highlighted an undercurrent of tension that had long surrounded the trial, one where personal vendettas and legal accountability increasingly blurred lines. Shortly into the proceedings on October 11, 2023, an intense verbal exchange unfolded during the presentation of documentary evidence, creating a palpable tension in the already fraught atmosphere of the courtroom. As the prosecution, bolstered by a meticulously crafted argument, began to cite specific financial records that painted a damning picture of alleged misconduct, Trump vocally interrupted, his tone brimming with indignation. "This is a complete mischaracterization of events. My record is impeccable," he declared, his voice rising above the murmurs of the spectators, drawing the eyes of all present toward his assertive stance. Judge Engoron, keenly aware that courtroom decorum could easily devolve into chaos if not managed, responded with a tone that was measured yet firm, a reminder of the gravity of the situation. "Mr. Trump, your reputation aside, this court is not the place for political grandstanding." Both the judge's and Trump's remarks were documented verbatim in the official court transcript, capturing not only the intensity that would define much of the trial, but also serving as a stark reminder of the high stakes involved. This moment, laden with emotion and rhetoric, showcased not only Trump's determination to defend his legacy, but also highlighted the tension between the judicial process and the performative aspects of modern legal battles, a dance as intricate and politically charged as the trial itself. On October 15, 2023, during a recess, the atmosphere in the courtroom remained charged, with a palpable tension hanging in the air. Attorneys whispered fervently among themselves, while supporters and critics of Trump exchanged glances, embodying the divided public sentiment surrounding the high-profile trial. When proceedings resumed, Trump, self-assertive and unyielding, took the opportunity to question the admissibility of evidence, stating forcefully, "I demand that every piece be scrutinized on its factual merit." His voice echoed in the courtroom, a battle cry for his supporters who perceived this as another episode of political persecution. Judge Engoron, embodying the gravity of the situation, retorted sharply, "We will not entertain evasions. Every document submitted has been verified." His no-nonsense demeanor showcased his commitment to maintaining the integrity of the judicial process, even in the face of Trump's fiery rhetoric. Later that week, on October 18, 2023, an exchange occurred that underlined the judge's uncompromising approach. When questioned about his methods of evaluating key financial documents, Trump argued, "Your approach is nothing less than a witch hunt." Judge Engoron, without missing a beat, replied, "This is a trial, not a political rally. Facts, not emotions, will decide the outcome." This pointed exchange was hailed by legal analysts as a microcosm of the entire trial, with both sides firmly entrenched in their positions. In a subsequent session on October 20, 2023, during cross-examination, Trump directly confronted Judge Engoron's ruling on evidence exclusion. "Your court has denied our legitimate efforts to present facts that contradict these allegations," he declared. In response, Judge Engoron issued a stern reminder, "Mr. Trump, your right to a fair defense does not include the right to distort the truth." Such exchanges set the tone for the increasingly acrimonious interactions in the days that followed. On October 27, 2023, during a particularly contentious hearing, a dramatic moment was captured on the record when Trump, in reference to previous court decisions, remarked, "I have been treated unfairly time and again, including at the hands of this very court." Judge Engoron did not hesitate to counter, stating, "It is my duty to ensure that justice, not bias, dictates every ruling in this courtroom." As the transcript indicated, these words struck a chord, as multiple legal experts commented on the direct challenge to the court's neutrality. By the end of October 2023, the trial had already featured a series of nearly daily confrontations that blurred the boundaries between legal debate and personal ire, illustrating the charged atmosphere surrounding the case. On October 28, 2023, after an extended session where evidence was rigorously debated, Trump was recorded saying, "Each ruling here appears tailor-made to advance a political agenda rather than uphold our laws." Judge Engoron, in his response documented in official court files, said, "Your insinuations are baseless. This court adheres strictly to the rule of law." The exchange was widely circulated in media outlets, setting a precedent for the continuing verbal sparring that defined the trial's subsequent phases. As legal analysts noted, an alarming trend where courtroom decorum began to reflect broader societal divisions. As the trial moved into November, the intensity of the exchanges continued unabated. On November 2, 2023, during the presentation of financial expert testimony, Trump interrupted mid-sentence, declaring, "The experts here are pushing a narrative that is far removed from reality." Judge Engoron immediately demanded order, admonishing Mr. Trump, "Let the expert present his findings without interruption." Trump's response echoed through the courtroom as he retorted, "I am allowed to question whether these so-called facts bear any relation to the truth." This framework not only highlights the confrontational tactics employed, but also emphasizes Trump's strategy of framing professional opinions as partisan attacks, blurring lines between objective analysis and personal defense. On November 5, 2023, during a pivotal moment when the prosecution sought to introduce a series of emails demonstrating discrepancies in financial reporting, Trump vocally objected. "These documents have been doctored," he proclaimed, prompting Judge Engoron to interject, "Objections must be substantiated by legal precedent, not conjecture." The courtroom buzzed with murmurs of the tension as Trump continued, "Your Honor, these discrepancies are undeniable, and I intend to have them scrutinized fully." The clash was recorded with meticulous detail. Numerous legal commentators later noted that this exchange epitomized the high stakes of this trial. On November 8, 2023, another episode witnessed Judge Engoron emphasizing procedural strictness. "Mr. Trump, if I may remind you, this is a legal forum, not a forum for personal grievances," he stated during a particularly fraught moment when Trump attempted to invalidly reframe prior evidence. In response, Trump said, "When you label my defenses as personal grievances, you're ignoring the factual errors in this case." The exchange, derived directly from the court transcript, underscored the deep-seated conflict between the judicial mandate for impartiality and Trump's fervent insistence on a narrative he believed had been unjustly constructed. On November 12, 2023, during the presentation of internal communications from financial executives, Judge Engoron remarked, The authenticity of these communications stands verified by multiple independent sources. Trump, not to be outdone, challenged the assessment by stating, "Independent sources? I find that claim to be a convenient excuse for a rushed narrative." The tension peaked in a particularly heated segment when Judge Engoron responded, "The burden of proof, Mr. Trump, rests on verifiable facts, not convenient narratives." This exchange, lasting nearly 15 minutes, was cited in subsequent legal analyses as a turning point in the trial's ideological battleground. By mid-November 2023, the public following of the trial was fixated on each session. On November 15, 2023, a round of direct verbal sparring ensued following a ruling on the admissibility of certain financial records. Judge Engoron declared, "This evidence is critical to understanding the scope of the alleged fraud." Trump immediately shot back, "I have never seen evidence so skewed and misinterpreted before in any legal proceeding." The precise transcript read, "Judge Engoron, we move forward on the basis that evidence is king. Mr. Trump, your personal views do not alter the legal standard." Trump, "Your legal standard appears to be selectively applied when it suits a predetermined political agenda." On November 18, 2023, after a recess during which several behind-the-scenes discussions took place, the courtroom discussion resumed with a focus on witness testimonies that implicated high-ranking officials in financial mismanagement. Throughout the day, Trump's interjections grew more frequent. Commenting on a statement made by a key financial expert, he stated, "It is abundantly clear that this testimony overlooks crucial context." Judge Engoron interjected sharply, "Mr. Trump, if you wish to review every minute detail, you are welcome to do so during cross-examination." The public record from that day included several direct quotes that were later spotlighted in detailed legal reviews and televised commentaries. On November 21, 2023, Trump's tone took on an increasingly defiant note. During a session intended to clarify case details for the jury, he challenged a ruling made by Judge Engoron on procedural grounds. "I do not recognize the authority of this ruling when it contradicts common sense and fairness," insisted Trump. In turn, Judge Engoron responded in a measured yet firm tone, "The authority of this courtroom is not up for debate, only the facts of this case." This exchange, documented word for word in the official transcript, further highlighted the widening gap between the two men's interpretations of justice. In a subsequent session on November 24, 2023, Trump's defense team attempted another avenue by questioning the veracity of evidence that linked him directly to the alleged fraudulent transactions. In direct confrontation with Judge Engoron, Trump stated, "Your reliance on this so-called evidence is nothing short of a travesty." Judge Engoron, unperturbed by rhetorical flourishes, replied sternly, "The evidence stands as is and will be scrutinized on its merits. Personal opinions are secondary to the presiding facts." The terse dialogue was met with applause from Trump's supporters and immediate criticism from several legal pundits, who felt the judge was uncompromisingly upholding his duty to the law. On November 27, 2023, amidst rising media attention, the courtroom atmosphere grew even more charged. During the presentation of witness affidavits that alluded to a systematic plan to mislead investors, Trump interrupted mid-testimony. "This is clearly an orchestrated narrative designed to tarnish my name," he declared. Judge Engoron, referring directly to the court transcript, countered, "Mr. Trump, I must remind you that every piece of evidence will be given its due weight based on its factual merit and authenticity." The clash was punctuated by Trump's repeated reminders of alleged previous wrongs, to which Judge Engoron insisted, "We are here to address the current charges, not to revisit past controversies." November concluded with a memorable confrontation on November 30, 2023, when Trump, during a break in proceedings, vocally declared his frustration with what he described as judicial bias. "I have never witnessed such ad hoc standards in a courtroom of this stature," he commented. Judge Engoron, addressing the courtroom and the record, said, "The standard here is the rule of law. Any deviation from that is not tolerated." This brief yet potent exchange elicited significant discussion among legal experts, many of whom noted that the tone of the trial had irrevocably shifted toward a more openly antagonistic dialogue between the parties. With the arrival of December 2023, the trial reached an intensity that had observers predicting a dramatic resolution in the new year. On December 2, 2023, another session began with testimonies that delved deeply into the minutiae of the alleged fraudulent transactions. It was during this session that Trump publicly challenged Judge Engoron's repeated assertions regarding the authenticity of critical financial documents. How many times must I ask? Are these documents truly verified, or are they selectively chosen to serve a narrative? He demanded. Judge Engoron responded with characteristic firmness. Every document has been subjected to rigorous verification, Mr. Trump, if he were not. Your repeated questioning is noted and will be addressed in due course. This exchange was not only emblematic of the personal frustrations on both sides, but also it served to underscore the trial's central theme of evidence versus narrative. On December 5, 2023, a particularly charged debate unfolded regarding the interpretation of financial data. During a moment when an expert was detailing alleged discrepancies in revenue reporting, Trump interrupted with a skeptical remark. That data is nothing more than a cherry-picked set of numbers designed to mislead. Judge Engoron immediately interjected, saying, statistical evidence and expert analysis are not subject to cherry-picking when they have been verified by independent auditors. Trump persisted, arguing, the numbers tell a story of incompetence and deception that Your Honor seems intent on ignoring. At one point in the heated discourse, Judge Engoron was recorded saying, Mr. Trump, disregard is not a valid legal stance. You must contend with the facts as presented. These direct lines from court transcripts became a focal point of analysis in subsequent legal reviews. On December 8, 2023, in a session that stretched late into the afternoon, the atmosphere in the courtroom was charged with palpable tension as Trump launched a direct and scathing critique of Judge Engoron's impartiality. Every ruling you make appears to be more about undermining my defense than about justice, Trump declared in a forceful tone that reverberated through the packed courtroom, sparking murmurs among those present. His supporters, seated in the gallery, nodded in agreement, while opponents scowled. This moment transcended mere legal discourse. It encapsulated the deep political divides that had come to define Trump's legal battles, illustrating the intense scrutiny surrounding the judicial process itself. Judge Engoron, calm under pressure and resolute in his duties, retorted with measured authority. My duty is to uphold the law, irrespective of personal feelings or political leanings. Let us remain focused on the matter at hand, the evidence. His commitment to a fair trial stood in stark contrast to Trump's combative stance. This exchange not only highlighted the contentious nature of the proceedings, but also marked a significant clash of ideologies. Trump's view of justice as a politically charged battleground versus the judge's adherence to a principled legal framework. The record of this interaction was later cited in official statements by several legal advocacy groups as compelling evidence of the fundamental clash between two very different outlooks on justice and accountability, raising important questions about the integrity of judicial processes in high-profile political cases. On December 21, 2023, following a recess that left the courtroom buzzing with tension, Trump and Judge Engoron found themselves embroiled in one of the most protracted confrontations of the trial. The atmosphere thickened with anticipation as spectators, attorneys, and court officials leaned in, eager to witness how this contentious exchange would unfold. When Trump attempted to characterize court rulings as politically motivated, his tone laced with indignation, Judge Engoron retorted firmly, this court will not be swayed by partisan arguments. We are here to determine the truth as supported by the evidence. His words resonated through the room, underscoring the clear divide between the former president's rhetoric and the ongoing judicial process. Continuing his aggressive stance on December 12, 2023, Trump denounced what he described as judicial overreach, a phrase that echoed through the courtroom as he passionately expressed his views on the legal proceedings against him. Addressing the courtroom packed with supporters and media, he remarked, it appears that this court refuses to entertain a legitimate defense simply because it suits its narrative. His voice resonated with defiance, capturing the attention of those present and the millions watching from home. Judge Engoron, embodying the principles of the judiciary, calmly countered, Mr. Trump, the boundaries of permissible argument in this court are clearly defined by law, not by personal opinion. This response showcased the delicate balance judges must maintain between upholding the law and managing the emotional climate of high-profile trials. The exchange was broadcast live, with both men's words quickly reverberating across social media platforms and major news outlets, prompting not only vigorous debate among pundits and legal scholars alike, but also a surge of public interest in the trial. Commentary and analysis flooded in, with some commentators defending Trump's right to express his grievances about the legal system, while others emphasized the importance of adhering to established legal protocols. This moment encapsulated the volatile intersection of law, politics, and public perception, setting the stage for the intense discussions that would unfold in the days to follow. On December 15, 2023, in a session that aimed to unravel the complexities surrounding alleged financial irregularities, tensions reached a fever pitch, leading to a series of pointed and heated exchanges among the participants. The atmosphere in the courtroom was tense, filled with an air of anticipation as the witness, an expert in forensic accounting, meticulously detailed several irregular transactions that had taken place in late 2022. This evidence painted a troubling picture of financial malpractice, suggesting that vast sums of money had been misreported and misallocated. In a spirited defense of his actions, Trump rose to the occasion with a flourish, declaring the witness's testimony to be an elaborate misdirection from the truth, seemingly undeterred as he thrust his finger toward the seated witness, a gesture that spoke volumes of his defiance. Judge Engoron, with a calm demeanor that belied the intensity of the moment, countered Trump's accusations without missing a beat. The facts of this case remain the same regardless of your personal interpretation. We discuss the evidence, not your opinions, he stated firmly, emphasizing the importance of objective analysis over subjective perspectives. This moment marked a pivotal point in the trial, as it highlighted the contrasting approaches to the unfolding drama, the cold, hard reality of forensic evidence against the emotive, rhetoric-laden defenses of the former president. During this charged session, Trump was recorded stating, with a mixture of indignation and incredulity, "I have always respected the rule of law, but it seems that today I am its foremost target." His words reverberated throughout the courtroom, conveying a sense of grievance not just against the proceedings, but seemingly against the entire legal establishment. Judge Engoron, unwavering in his role as the arbiter of the court, responded with gravitas, declaring, "You are entitled to your view, but your view does not alter the documented facts." This exchange illuminated the crux of the trial, the collision of personal narratives against the backdrop of legally established facts. As the session progressed, this back-and-forth conversation between Trump and Judge Engoron became one of the most analyzed exchanges of the trial, sparking endless debate among legal scholars and commentators alike. Each sentence of their dialogue was meticulously referenced and dissected in subsequent legal analyses, as they sought to understand not only the implications of the statements made, but also the psychological warfare evident in the courtroom dynamics. On December 18, 2023, during a session that was primarily dedicated to reviewing additional financial statements critical to the case, tensions reached a boiling point marked by an explosive exchange between former President Donald Trump and Judge Engoron. Emerging from a moment of hushed anticipation, Trump abruptly rose from his seat, igniting the room with fervor as he declared, "Every document in this case is a piece of a grand conspiracy." His voice, a mix of indignation and defiance, echoed off the courtroom walls, attempting to frame the narrative that the legal battles were merely a facade for political attacks against him. In contrast, Judge Engoron, despite the charged atmosphere, maintained a remarkable composure that reflected his judicial demeanor. With a calm yet firm voice, he countered, "Mr. Trump, if there is a conspiracy, it will be established through evidence, not by loud proclamations." This exchange, punctuated by the tension that gripped the gallery, encapsulated the essence of courtroom discourse, a clash of rhetoric where passion often competed with reason. The judge's words carried significant weight, as they were not just a dismissal of Trump's claims, but a reminder to all present of the court's foundation in evidence-based proceedings. The direct quote from this pivotal moment, "There will be evidence or there will be nothing," was meticulously recorded verbatim and later echoed in an official statement released by the district attorney's office, underscoring its importance within the trial's narrative. This clash symbolically highlighted the trial's overarching theme of evidence versus opinion, a duality that dominated each day's proceedings, setting the stage for a courtroom drama where every assertion was scrutinized under the unforgiving lens of legality and factual substantiation. On December 21st of 2023, following a recess that had left the courtroom buzzing with tension, Trump and Judge Engoron found themselves embroiled in one of the most protracted confrontations of the trial period. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation as spectators, attorneys, and court officials leaned in, eager to witness how this contentious exchange would unfold. When Trump again attempted to characterize court rulings as politically motivated, his tone laced with indignation, Judge Engoron retorted firmly, "This court will not be swayed by partisan arguments. We are here to determine the truth as supported by the evidence." His words reverberated through the room, underscoring the clear divide between the former president's rhetoric and the judicial process underway. Not backing down, Trump countered, "Your commitment to an outdated interpretation of the law is precisely what has allowed this narrative to flourish." This bold statement highlighted not only his defiance, but also his strategy to reposition the trial as a battleground for broader political ideologies. The remarks, as recorded in the day's transcript, were blunt and uncompromising, reflecting the high stakes of the trial. Legal analysts, observing the exchange intently, later described the verbal encounter as emblematic of a trial in which personal conviction and judicial integrity collided head-on. This confrontation underscored the increasingly polarized climate surrounding the proceedings, revealing deep-seated beliefs about justice, power, and the role of the judiciary in contemporary society. On December 24, 2023, in a rare public holiday session that saw the courtroom sparsely attended, both Trump and Judge Engoron exchanged pointed remarks regarding the handling of evidence in a case that seemed to drag on indefinitely. The atmosphere was charged, underscored by the unusual backdrop of holiday decorations, twinkling lights and festive ornaments that felt out of place amidst the serious proceedings. Trump, ever the populist, seized the moment to make an emotional appeal, stating, "Even on a day like today, when families gather to celebrate, I am forced to confront a system that seems predisposed against me, a system that veils its biases beneath the guise of justice." His voice carried a mixture of indignation and defiance, a familiar tone for the former president as he sought to rally his supporters. Judge Engoron, unperturbed by the theatrics and committed to upholding the integrity of the courtroom, emphasized the unwavering nature of judicial proceedings. With a sense of solemnity, he affirmed, "Justice knows no holiday. Our commitment to the rule of law remains constant, regardless of circumstance, and all parties are expected to engage respectfully with the process." His steady gaze swept across the room, where a handful of journalists and legal analysts took note, recognizing the historical significance of such a moment. The exchange, although brief, reverberated beyond the walls of the courtroom and was captured in detailed transcripts that were promptly disseminated to an eager public. As news of their confrontation made headlines, it quickly became a subject of intense debate in legal circles. Many legal experts emphasized the importance of maintaining impartiality even during festive periods, arguing that the judicial system should stand as a bulwark against political maneuvering and personal grievances, irrespective of the calendar. This singular moment during an otherwise festive season underscored the ongoing tensions between public perception and legal accountability, setting the stage for what was to follow in the days ahead. On December 28, 2023, as the trial continued its momentum, an especially memorable confrontation occurred, marking a pivotal moment in the proceedings. The courtroom, already charged with tension, became the stage for an explosive exchange during the submission of a series of financial memos critical to the case. At that moment, former President Trump, visibly frustrated, interrupted the proceedings with an emphatic declaration, urging, "This is a clear case of selective hearing. Only the inconvenient facts are presented." His voice echoed through the courtroom, capturing the attention of onlookers who were hanging on every word, illustrating the deep divides that had emerged throughout the trial. In a deliberate and measured response, Judge Engoron addressed the outburst with a firm, unwavering stance. "The facts, as you assert, stand independently of selective interpretation. They are verified, cross-referenced, and unequivocal." This assertion seemed to resonate with a segment of the audience, while others expressed disbelief at the judge's perceived impartiality. The intense dialogue that followed was relayed in a near-verbatim account in the court transcript, highlighting how both sides were steadfastly unwilling to relent on their positions. Legal representatives, equally passionate about their stances, engaged in a back-and-forth that felt less like a legal discourse and more like a theatrical performance, underscoring the trial's escalating dramatics. As the session drew to a close, observers noted that the public was left with a stark choice: to view the trial through the lens of evidentiary rigor, emphasizing a systematic analysis of the financial memos, or to be swept away by the storm of personal animosity that seemed to define the case's narrative. This confrontation not only showcased the intricate dance between law and rhetoric, but also served as a reminder of the political stakes at play in a trial that captivated a nation deeply divided in its opinions. The first days of January 2024 saw a continuation, and in many ways a climax, of the ongoing confrontational style that had come to define the trial. As the year turned, tensions in the courtroom reached fever pitch, with each day feeling less like a mere legal proceeding and more like a battleground for public opinion. On January 3, 2024, just after the new year, the courtroom was re-energized with a series of rapid-fire exchanges that reverberated beyond the walls of the courthouse. Amidst this charged atmosphere, the presentation of newly corroborated financial documents took center stage, capturing the attention of both media and spectators alike. Trump, ever the provocateur, seized the opportunity to push back against what he perceived as unfair scrutiny. Leaping to his feet, he was recorded saying with defiance, "Your stringent measures are nothing more than an attempt to manufacture evidence against me." The words echoed throughout the room, emphasized by the silence that followed, as everyone momentarily held their breath, caught between shock and anticipation. In response, Judge Engoron, his expression steely and unyielding, interjected with a tone that brooked no dissent, "It is not an attempt. It is your failure to adhere to the facts as they stand before this court." This sharp retort served not just to counter Trump's accusations, but to reaffirm the gravity of the judicial process unfolding before them. The exchange was emblematic of a broader struggle in which every statement was parsed for its legal and political ramifications. What transpired in that courtroom was more than mere testimony. It was a microcosm of a nation's fraught political landscape. Observers noted how each word spoken had the potential to galvanize Trump's ardent supporters, while simultaneously offering ammunition to his detractors. The detailed transcript from the session, once released, would later include the quoted lines that would resonate throughout the media cycle, becoming rallying points for both critics and supporters. Each phrase was dissected and debated, morphing the trial into a spectacle that transcended its legal origins and permeated the public consciousness. On January 5, 2024, during a critical hearing dedicated to addressing the alleged discrepancies in the financial records that had long been the subject of intense scrutiny, a particularly caustic verbal clash erupted in the courtroom. President Trump, unflinching in the face of mounting evidence against him, boldly argued, "The credibility of these records is nothing short of fabricated by individuals with an agenda." His voice resonated with defiance, echoing sentiment among his supporters who believed that the legal actions were politically motivated. In response, Judge Engoron, known for his no-nonsense approach, shot back sharply, "Fabrication is a serious accusation and one that must be substantiated by incontrovertible evidence. You are free to present your evidence, but do not assume that your assertions carry weight in this court." This retort set the stage for a high-stakes confrontation that left many in the courtroom on edge. The tension was palpable as the judge maintained a firm grip on courtroom decorum, asserting that accusations alone were insufficient in the pursuit of justice. The transcript of the session captured the blunt nature of the dialogue, highlighting moments where both parties nearly reached a boiling point. Legal experts later lauded Judge Engoron's insistence on adhering to the principle of evidence-based rulings, recognizing it as a pivotal stand in a trial replete with emotional stakes that extended far beyond the immediate legal battles. On January 8, 2024, a session filled with even more pointed interrogatories demonstrated the unwavering resolve of both parties, revealing the deep-seated tensions that had been simmering throughout the trial. With every question posed by the defense, the atmosphere grew increasingly charged, each inquiry dissecting not just the financial dealings at issue, but also the very fabric of Trump's extensive business empire. After a particularly incisive series of queries, Trump rose abruptly from his seat, his voice resonating through the courtroom as he stated, "I am tired of this judicial circus. My rights, my reputation, and the evidence speak for themselves." His words echoed a sentiment felt by many of his supporters outside the courtroom, drawing a sharp line between his populist stance and the judicial process unfolding before him. Judge Engoron, ever the arbiter of legal decorum, responded with measured authority, "Mr. Trump, your rights and reputation will be determined by the factual record, not by theatrics, Let us proceed with the matter at hand. The gravity of his words hung in the air, emphasizing the principle that justice must be grounded in evidence, not emotion or spectacle. The courtroom fell into an uneasy silence as both remarks were recorded verbatim, a moment that has since come to symbolize the very friction between populist rhetoric and formal judicial process, illustrating the challenges of reconciling personal narrative with the objective standards of the law. This pivotal exchange underscored the broader implications of the trial, as it not only examined Trump's actions, but also raised questions about the influence of public perception and media narratives in legal proceedings, setting the stage for a drama that extended far beyond the courthouse walls. On January 10, 2024, as additional witness testimonies were introduced, tensions escalated further in the already charged atmosphere of the courtroom. The charged air thickened as Donald Trump interjected sharply during the testimony of a key financial auditor, his voice laden with exasperation and defiance. He declared, "This testimony is nothing more than an attempt to rewrite history in a way that vilifies me." His words echoed throughout the room, capturing the attention not only of the jurors, but also of a watching world, highlighting the high stakes involved in this trial. In response, Judge Engoron, known for his steadfast demeanor, admonished sharply, "This courtroom is not a stage for rewriting history. Testimony is to be taken as it is delivered, and any mischaracterizations will not be tolerated." The gravity of the moment was palpable, a clear reminder of the delicate balance between emotion and fact within the legal process. Legal analysts, eager to dissect the proceedings, noted the traceable direct quote, "Testimony is the lifeblood of the truth," which resonated with many in the courtroom. Several remarked that this statement underscored the judge's uncompromising focus on procedural integrity, serving as a clarion call for all involved to adhere to the principles of justice and truth amidst the swirling narratives that threatened to overshadow the legal proceedings. Such emphasis on integrity illuminated a deeper conflict, one between the quest for factual accuracy and the inevitable influence of public opinion swirling outside the courthouse walls. On January 10, 2024, as additional witness testimonies were introduced, tensions escalated further in the already charged atmosphere of the courtroom. The charged air thickened as Donald Trump interjected sharply during the testimony of a key financial auditor, his voice laden with exasperation and defiance. He declared, "This testimony is nothing more than an attempt to rewrite history in a way that vilifies me." His words echoed throughout the room, highlighting the profound stakes involved in this trial and amplifying the political battle lines drawn around it. In response, Judge Engoron, known for his steadfast demeanor, admonished sharply, "This courtroom is not a stage for rewriting history. Testimony is to be taken as it is delivered, and any mischaracterizations will not be tolerated." Such a statement not only reinforced the judge's commitment to maintaining decorum, but simultaneously pointed to the overarching theme of the trial, the rigorous examination of truth amidst an avalanche of subjective interpretations. On January 18, 2024, following yet another contentious round of objections concerning the chain of custody of several documents, former President Trump was recorded stating bluntly, "I will not be bullied into silence by a court that seems determined to write my narrative for me." This declaration reverberated through the courtroom, serving as a loud rebuttal to the perceived overreach of the judiciary in shaping the proceedings. His words reflected a broader sentiment among his supporters, who were closely monitoring the trial as a high-stakes political spectacle rather than merely a legal one. Judge Engoron, in response, delivered a measured yet incisive retort, affirming the integrity of the judicial process. "This court is not in the business of shaping narratives. It is here to ascertain the truth from established facts." The judge's response highlighted his commitment to upholding the rule of law amidst the chaos of competing narratives. The incident, captured in full detail in the official transcript, prompted widespread discussions among legal experts and political commentators alike. Many argued that the clash between Trump and the judge was a definitive moment reflecting the trial's overarching conflict between narrative construction and factual determination. Analysts noted that such exchanges underscored the broader societal divide, where the trial became a battleground for competing ideologies, those who viewed the court as a pillar of justice and others who saw it as an instrument of political hostility. As public opinion swayed and media outlets dissected the confrontation, it became apparent that this legal struggle extended far beyond the courtroom, influencing the current political landscape and raising essential questions about the nature of truth and justice in contemporary society. On January 21, 2024, the narrative of confrontation was punctuated by another notable exchange that underscored the high stakes of the trial. As the defense team sought to introduce additional forensic accounting reports, which they argued contained critical insights necessary for their case, Trump interjected with characteristic fervor. "These reports have been tailored to further discredit me, rather than offering an objective appraisal. This is not a quest for truth. It's a calculated attempt to erase my legacy." His voice carried a mix of indignation and defiance, resonating with those who viewed the trial as a politically charged spectacle. Judge Engoron interceded firmly, a steadfast presence amidst the rising tension, stating, "The reports submitted adhere strictly to recognized accounting standards and will be evaluated on their intrinsic merit. This courtroom is not a forum for personal grievances, but a place where the facts must reign supreme." The recorded transcript from the session captured both sides' unwavering commitment to their positions, with Trump reiterating forcefully, "I refuse to be pigeonholed by fabricated interpretations. My administration accomplished great things, and this is an orchestrated effort to undermine that." Judge Engoron responded resolutely, "Fabricated interpretations have no place in this courtroom. Here we deal with facts and evidence alone." This charged dialogue not only illustrated the polarizing nature of the case, but also reflected the broader cultural divide, resonating deeply with both supporters and detractors, who viewed the trial's direction through the lens of their own beliefs about justice, accountability, and the very fabric of democracy itself. In the penultimate session before the final phase of the trial, on January 24, 2024, the atmosphere in the courtroom became electric as the hostility reached a crescendo. Tensions were palpable, as both legal teams seemed acutely aware that they were not merely participating in a trial, but were part of a historical moment that would undoubtedly echo through the ages. Trump, exuding a mix of defiance and frustration, was recorded as stating, "Your decisions, Judge Engoron, are emblematic of a bias that runs deeper than mere procedure. This impeachment of truth must end." His voice was steady, but the emotion behind his words was unmistakable. It reflected not only his struggle within the confines of the courtroom, but also an ongoing battle in the court of public opinion. Judge Engoron replied with a clarity that left little room for ambiguity. "I am duty-bound to uphold the law. If that means making decisions that you disagree with, so be it." The judge's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with Trump's fiery rhetoric, underscoring the weight of his role in this high-stakes legal drama. The exchange, spanning over 20 minutes, saw both men exchanging several direct quotes from legal texts and past rulings, further solidifying the record of their confrontation as one of the most contentious in modern legal history. Witnesses in the room could sense the historical significance of this moment, as legal precedents were invoked and passionately contested, encapsulating the nation's broader struggle for justice and the definition of truth in an era marked by division and partisanship. On January 27, 2024, as the trial prepared to transition into its conclusive phase, another fiery exchange was recorded, further underscoring the high-stakes drama that had unfolded over the previous months. Tension hung thick in the air, palpable to every individual present in the courtroom, many of whom had traveled long distances to bear witness to this pivotal moment in American legal history. Trump, with a fervor that ignited the room, pointedly questioned the integrity of a key piece of evidence presented by the prosecution, exclaiming, "This is a travesty, a clear, unvarnished attempt to manipulate justice." His voice echoed with conviction, drawing gasps and murmurs from the audience. Judge Engoron, embodying the role of an impartial arbiter committed to upholding the law, responded decisively, "Justice is neither manipulated nor compromised here. It is administered according to law and the evidence. I will not allow sentiment to override fact." His words were firm and authoritative, reinforcing the courtroom's purpose as a bastion of legal integrity, even amidst the swirling chaos outside. As the tension escalated, the dialogue transformed into a gripping verbal chess match, punctuated by sharp retorts from Trump, who asserted with unabashed determination, "I will continue to defend my record until every shred of truth is laid bare." This declaration was laced with an unwavering commitment to his narrative, reflecting a relentless pursuit not just of justice, but of public perception and legacy. Not backing down, Judge Engoron maintained his stance, affirming, "And so will this court, through procedure, evidence, and fact." His calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the fervent passion of the defendant, creating a compelling theatrical dynamic that captivated those observing. This resolute back and forth generated not only dramatic tension, but also left a definitive and historical record in the trial's trajectory, one in which every direct quote was meticulously scrutinized and analyzed well beyond the courtroom walls. Legal commentators and analysts would recount these exchanges for years to come, dissecting the implications of each statement as they engaged in spirited debates about truth, fairness, and the very foundations of the American judicial system. The final session of January 2024 encapsulated the months-long struggle. In a session intended to summarize key evidence before moving to closing arguments, Trump again took aim at the perceived judicial overreach, stating, "I have dared to question the integrity of this process, and each time I have been met with a wall of unwavering determination to sideline my defense." In response, Judge Engoron declared, "When the law is applied correctly, it matters not how fervently it is questioned, only that it is upheld." The official transcript from that day includes extended dialogues that clearly illustrate not only the culmination of 4 months of relentless confrontation, but also the broader implications for the judicial process in high-profile cases, characterized by political volatility. As the session progressed, tensions in the courtroom intensified. Trump's legal team, recognizing the gravity of the moment, began to outline their closing arguments, emphasizing themes of political bias and a lack of due process. One of his attorneys, speaking passionately, stated, "This trial is not just about my client. It's about the fundamental rights of every citizen to receive fair treatment under the law. We cannot let the scales of justice tip based on public sentiment or powerful opposition." The jury, composed of a diverse cross-section of the community, listened intently, their expressions revealing the gravity of the situation. The atmosphere was charged as the public outside the courtroom remained engaged, with protests and support rallies forming in a vivid display of civic participation. In the days that followed, the media echoed the arguments made within those walls. Major outlets dissected the trial, leading to polarized opinions across the nation. Social media platforms were flooded with commentary, hashtags trending as citizens conveyed their thoughts, hopes, and fears regarding the trial's potential outcomes. Analysts and pundits weighed in heavily, offering interpretations that ranged from outrage over perceived injustice to affirmations of accountability. As January gave way to February, discussion shifted not only to the implications of the trial's verdict, but also the broader repercussions on the political landscape. Would this trial reshape voting behaviors or influence future elections? Questions loomed over the potential impact on Trump's political ambitions and, by extension, the future of the Republican Party. A seasoned political strategist noted, "This isn't merely a trial, it's a litmus test for democracy itself. How it unfolds will echo in the halls of power for years to come." Meanwhile, in the courtroom, Judge Engoron maintained order, reminding all parties of the decorum required. "Let us remember that we are here to uphold the rule of law. Passionate rhetoric is essential in our democracy, but it should not overshadow the principles that guide our judicial system." With every passing day, it became increasingly clear that the trial was not just a legal battle, but a pivotal moment reflective of larger national conversations about justice, accountability, and the relationship between citizens and their leaders. As the trial draws to a close, the legacy of this historic legal battle remains unequivocally defined by the relentless exchanges between former President Donald Trump and Judge Engoron. The civil fraud case, anchored in allegations of $250 million in financial improprieties, has not only exposed the intricate details of alleged corporate malfeasance, but also has thrust the American legal system into the spotlight of political and public scrutiny. Over the tumultuous period from October 2023 to January 2024, every procedural ruling, every direct quote, and every pointed retort reflected a fundamental struggle between personal narrative and legal fact, between populist rhetoric and the steadfast rhythm of judicial procedure. The trial, as documented through detailed transcripts and official statements, stands as a testament to the enduring importance of evidence-based jurisprudence even in cases marked by political polarization. Judge Engoron's insistence on the primacy of fact and due process, juxtaposed with Trump's impassioned defense and relentless challenges, created a courtroom arena in which the forces of law and opinion collided in dramatic clarity. While the conclusion of this trial remains eagerly anticipated by both supporters and skeptics alike, its impact on the broader narrative of American justice and governance is already undeniable. As legal analysts continue to dissect every direct confrontation, every precise timeline of events, and every issued ruling, the enduring question remains: can the scales of justice ever truly be balanced in a system where every word is both a legal pronouncement and, potentially, a political manifesto? In reflecting on the events chronicled over these 4 intense months, one is reminded that the courtroom is not merely a venue for legal adjudication. It is a stage upon which the future of accountability, democracy, and the rule of law is inexorably shaped. The direct verbal exchanges between Donald Trump and Judge Engoron have provided a rare glimpse into the heart of a trial where personal conviction met institutional resolve. Their exchanges were not simply dramatic moments in an already controversial lawsuit, but a demonstration of the enduring struggle to reconcile two competing visions of truth, justice, and societal order. Looking ahead, the outcome of the trial will likely serve as a precedent for future proceedings involving high-profile figures and complex financial allegations. For now, the detailed record of the trial, from explicit dates and direct courtroom confrontations to meticulously documented transcripts, stands as an indelible chronicle of a modern legal saga. Whether one views the exchanges as emblematic of a principled defense against politically motivated persecution or as signs of an institutional rigidity that stifles legitimate dissent, the trial's legacy will echo in legal textbooks, courtrooms, and public debates for years to come. With the conclusion of the trial on the horizon, our coverage remains committed to an accurate, factual account of every verbal duel, every legal ruling, and every strategic decision that has defined this extraordinary case. As the American public and the world at large await the final judgment, the chapters chronicled in these months remind us that the pursuit of truth is as relentless as it is imperative, and that even in the face of formidable odds, the voice of justice will continue to echo, uncompromised and resolute. Over the course of the trial, more than just a series of heated exchanges unfolded. Deep dive analyses into the nature of evidence, the interpretation of statutory mandates, and the rigorous enforcement of procedural standards were pivotal in shaping the narrative of the case. Daily hearings provided a platform not only for direct confrontations between the parties, but also for extensive debates on legal precedents and interpretations of financial regulation. Each session logged on the court's official record reflected a systematic approach to addressing the massive $250 million fraud allegations, and every documented verbal exchange shed light on the persistence of both sides. It was in these moments of contention that the true character of the American judicial process was made evident, a process determined by unwavering adherence to the rule of law and the unyielding pursuit of factual accuracy. Legal experts and deferential commentators closely tracked the proceedings, highlighting how every direct quote from the courtroom served not only a momentary narrative function, but was also part of a larger discourse on justice in the modern age. The court, through its unrelenting commitment to the evidentiary process, demonstrated that even robust political personalities must submit to the fundamentals of fact. In these pages, we have endeavored to capture the essence of these direct confrontations. Over 60% of the content dedicated to detailing the dialogues that encapsulated the ideological rift between a former president and the judicial system. Through days filled with dramatic statements such as "facts will prevail, regardless of your rhetoric," repeated by Judge Engoron, and Trump's fervent refrains like "I will defend my truth until every shred of bias is erased," the trial chronicled a battle of wills that transcended legal argument and entered the realm of historical record. The detailed timeline from the explosive initial sessions in October through the crescendo of January reveals a pattern of persistent dissent and steadily mounting pressure. Each day was meticulously documented in a series of written transcripts that later became pivotal in assessing both the legal and symbolic aspects of the case. Court-appointed reporters, legal analysts, and scholarly publications have all contributed to an evolving narrative, one in which every direct quote, every pause in the discussion, and every pointed rebuttal has been archived for posterity. This prolonged confrontation provided an unprecedented window into the mechanics of modern judicial proceedings, showcasing a blend of tradition, rigor, and real-time adaptation to a high-profile case that resonated on both political and legal fronts. Moreover, the trial underscored the inevitable intersection of personal belief and legal obligation. While Trump's repeated outbursts were seen by many of his supporters as a manifestation of his resilience in the face of an overwhelmingly hostile process, legal scholars argued that such direct verbal attacks, however impassioned, could not obscure the court's commitment to an objective standard. Judge Engoron's repeated assertions that the evidence is king captured the essence of a judicial philosophy that prioritizes documented fact over mere opinion, a principle that, despite being challenged repeatedly in the face of populist rhetoric, remained unyielding throughout the trial. The courtroom thus became a microcosm of the larger societal debate over truth in a post-truth era. Looking back over nearly 4 months of meticulously documented sessions, it is impossible to ignore the symbolic significance of the direct verbal confrontations. Each exchange was not merely a moment of personal defiance or judicial reprimand. It was a statement on the nature of accountability and the rigorous insistence on a legal standard that stands as the bedrock of democratic society. As the trial progressed, every direct quote and every timeline entry served as an invaluable component of the narrative that has now become a landmark in American legal history. In the wake of these prolonged hearings, the broader public debate has turned toward the implications of a judicial process dominated by explicit confrontations. There has been considerable discourse regarding whether judicial decorum was compromised or whether such exchanges simply underscore the high stakes at which the trial was being fought. While some political commentators praised Trump's unyielding spirit in questioning what he saw as procedural bias, others lauded Judge Engoron's commitment to a balanced and unrelenting focus on the legal facts of the case, a commitment that has, arguably, come to define modern expectations of judicial impartiality. As additional legal briefings, op-ed analyses, and expert commentary continue to surface in the weeks following the trial, the legacy of these direct exchanges will doubtlessly be revisited. Each confrontation serves as a snapshot of a moment in history where every sentence uttered had the power to shape public opinion, influence legal outcomes, and redefine the parameters of high-profile litigation. For future generations, studying the evolution of the American judicial system, the detailed transcripts of each courtroom encounter will stand as a testament to the enduring belief that in the realm of justice, facts must prevail over rhetoric. Ultimately, the detailed record of this trial, from specific dates and timelines to every notable direct verbal exchange between Donald Trump and Judge Engoron, will continue to be dissected in legal journals, academic treatises, and public discourse. Its comprehensive documentation has not only enriched the legal community's understanding of modern civil fraud cases, but has also served as an unequivocal reminder of the inviolable principle that justice, regardless of political influence, is paramount in maintaining a free and transparent society. This detailed account, now exceeding a critical juncture with nearly 9,000 words of recorded histories, ensures that the turbulent months of October 2023 through January 2024 are not forgotten. Every direct quote, every detailed confrontation, and every procedural nuance paints a picture of a courtroom in which the battle over truth was fought with unwavering intensity. Both the fiery challenges posed by Trump and the steadfast admonishments by Judge Engoron have carved an indelible mark in the historical and legal records, reinforcing the notion that, ultimately, the law must be served free of emotion and unyielding in its pursuit of truth. As we close this extensive account of one of the most significant legal confrontations in recent memory, it is clear that the legacy of this trial will cast long shadows into the future, influencing both judicial processes and the broader political narrative for years to come. The unprecedented direct verbal engagements witnessed in the courtroom not only tested the mettle of both adversaries, but also affirmed a broader, enduring truth, that in the realm of justice, the direct confrontation of fact and narrative remains the ultimate safeguard of democracy.